Hey everyone, and welcome to Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit the 1991 drama, The Prince of Tides. So, pop on some press-on nails and have a seat.
Hey everyone, welcome to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. Believe it or not, I know we sound very young and sprightly, but we are in fact middle-aged and we're looking at these movies through that lens.
Yeah.
The Prince of Tides.
Prince of Tides.
Oh, 1991.
91.
Brian.
Well, you're Christina and I'm Brian.
Oh,
yeah. Oh my God.
You know what? You need to just push back a little bit. Everybody knows who we are at this point.
Yeah, so we always start with then.
Yes.
Christina, do you want to start with your then?
My then was in the movie theater.
Yeah.
I watched this movie in the theaters.
Wow, fancy.
I'm super fancy. Because I remember it just having a huge... I mean, everybody was talking about this movie.
Yes, they were.
Everyone was talking about this movie. I believe this was Barbara's directorial debut. Am I correct in that?
It was not. I'm trying to think of her first. Was it Yentl? God damn it.
Did she really?
I think it was Yentl.
Yeah, because that was the 80s,
But this is her
right?
second one because Roger Ebert said in my research, he's like, it was like to have a successful first directorial debut, shows you can tell the story, whatever that you want to tell. Having a second one that's successful, as Barbra Streisand does here, shows that she is a, director, kind of thing.
I see.
Because sometimes it's like that directorial debut is like the story that only you can tell. And then it's like, if you just keep making movies, you know.
Right.
You have to approach them differently. What does it say, Christina?
No, I'm just looking because, that's totally...
Let's just go with that. We can check on the break.
I'm
going to forget to check.
I 100% believe you.
Oh, thank you.
But I remember it being... I think what I'm remembering is the fact that she was snubbed as the director nominee. I think that's really what I'm thinking about, is that it not necessarily was her first, but it was 100% snubbed. And... that's what I was sort of looking at the other when you were talking, and I was not listening to you. I'm just kidding. I was looking at what the other awards it was nominated for, and it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress in a Supporting Role,
Kate Nelligan,
Best Writing, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Music. All nominated, no winning. But no Best Actress and no Director.
We're going to obviously dive shallower into those nominations because I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
The other thing that's important about the Oscars with this movie is 7 nominations, and it was the only film that year to be nominated for Best Picture, because at that point there were only 5. They only allowed 5 films.
Right.
To not win an Oscar by the end of the night. It was completely shut out.
Yeah.
So 1983, Yentl was Barbara's directorial debut.
Okay.
Followed by The Prince of Tides in 91. Followed by The Mirror Has Two Faces in 96.
Okay.
Just to clear that up.
Very nice. Thank goodness for the internet.
That's right. Although I did know it, as you heard.
You did already?
5 seconds ago. Yeah. I said before I checked, that's why. I think it was Yentl. Yeah.
You know it all.
Have you ever seen Yentl?
Of course, yes, I've
never seen it.
You never saw Yentl?
No.
I'm surprised. You're a big Barbra Streisand fan.
No, I'm not.
I thought you were.
My God, Christina. So Christina and I were guests.
I guess I don't know you at all. I do not know you at all.
So Christina and I were guests on a podcast called What Did We Miss? Good friends of ours. And we talked about What's Up, Doc. And I said I struggle with Barbra Streisand.
That's right. That's right.
Very much the opposite of loving her. No, I don't hate her, but I think Barbara is she always has such an iciness to me. I don't feel like I ever connect the way I do with, like, Cher or Bette Midler or Celine. Like, Barbara just has this, like, take. I just feel like everything is so telegraphed with her.
Yes,
just like,
it's all coming back to me now.
It's a control thing. I get a vibe of, like, I am always under control, and I won't be told any different. Yeah.
Yes, I remember.
Like, remember Nuts, the movie.
I remember
Nuts?
Yeah.
Remember that trailer when she's like supposed to be this like this beat up prostitute, and she's like, I don't bother anyone who doesn't bother me first. And it's like, really? I don't know. It just seems like so. It's like she's a little like too.
I love your impersonations.
Like,
I really enjoy them. We should have just an episode of Brian impersonations. They're so good.
A little. It just seems like she's just always like she's. It's I know what it is.
Okay.
It's like she has the script in her lap. Like, I think she always.
Yes.
It doesn't always feel organic. There you go. That's all.
Good job.
And yet,
I liked
one of my favorite karaoke.
You circled back and really pulled it together at the end.
One of my favorite karaoke songs is "You Don't Bring Me Flowers." I mean, I will always love that song. But
she's a beautiful singer.
Oh my God, she's an amazing singer.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I agree.
So, go ahead. So
what are we doing now? What movie?
Then, Prince of Tides. So you said then because you went to see it because of all the Oscar
because
buzz
everyone was talking about it.
Yeah.
It was there was a lot of buzz about it, and I remember seeing it in the movie theater. And I actually, thinking back to the movie itself before I rewatched it, I didn't have a huge recollection of this movie aside from one pivotal scene. I remembered a little bit about it. I kind of remembered the basic idea of the story, but there was that one scene that was very jarring, and we can talk about that. Yeah. And so because of that scene, I never wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
I said, I'm like, I have no desire to ever watch this movie again. So I didn't have a huge memory about it, and that was the impression that I had, was just that very powerful scene. And that's basically my then.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it since.
So you really don't remember how you felt after you watched it, other than that scene,
right? It had a huge impact on me. Yes. Yeah.
So, kind of similar. So I started at the movie theater because I think I probably challenged myself to see all the Oscar movies because I was
very fancy.
Yeah, I always tried. I don't try so much anymore, but back when I was younger, I was like obsessed with the Oscars. So I'm like, well, I have to see it. Knowing nothing about it. I didn't read the book. I knew the book was a bestseller. I was obviously very familiar with Barbra Streisand and Nick Nolte. So I don't remember who I went to see it with. I may have seen it by myself. Because what I used to do, a little bit of history, I would use Super Bowl Sunday as my Oscar movie watching day. So I would truly go to the movie theater by myself and see 3 movies. And I used to do this.
That's a great idea. I never knew that about you.
Oh my God, I used to love to. It was like
why didn't you ever call me?
A little treat. Well, some of it was before I met you, but
it's no excuse.
But I'm pleased. One time I went to see Babe. Remember Babe? The pig movie. I went by myself. I'm surrounded by little kids sitting. I don't know how old was I? In my I was probably 20. How old was I when Babe came out? 20, 21 maybe. Sitting alone in a movie theater with a bunch of kids watching a pig movie. Wow. Sure, I'm totally normal. But anyway,
who else did that? Was that George Michael that was in the movie theater? Or was that Pee Wee Herman?
That was Pee Wee. Okay. George was a restroom. Okay. So what happens is, I remember. Here's what I remember. I remember being very bored, and then very upset by that scene that we're going to talk about. To the really images that I could not get out of my head.
Yes.
Really wondering why it was necessary. I didn't care for any of the flashbacks, to be honest. It was just I get it, rough childhood, next, please don't show me any more.
And there were a lot of flashbacks. And I think
I remembered, so for me, I remembered there being a lot of flashbacks, and I remembered that scene, where the awful scene, very vividly, which is why when we jump into now, I have some different thoughts. But let's jump into now. Yeah. So this time around, I looked at this movie, and again, I wasn't really looking forward to watching it because of that scene. I knew it was near the end, so I knew,
to brace myself for it. And I think it's a little different when you know it's coming.
Yeah.
You can time it differently. And obviously I don't want it to be on when Emily's around. So I had to really think about where and when I was going to watch this movie. Plus, this movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes. Yeah. So that's a huge chunk of time.
It's one of the longer ones we've watched for this.
Definitely. Yeah. So I knew I had to really plan this. And I ended up watching it in 2 parts. I watched it one morning, and then I finished it up. Actually, I finished it up this morning.
Well, you know what? You're dedicated.
I did. I had to.
I finished it last night at 11.
So strange, though, because... It was so strange, though, because I had thought I only had about 45 minutes left.
Oh, God.
I felt like I had watched it forever, and I'm like, I can't have too much left. And my DVD player doesn't say how much time has gone by. So it's really frustrating in that way. Yeah. So
what happens if you pause it? It doesn't?
It doesn't.
What?
It's really annoying.
Oh my God.
Really annoying.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's I don't know. It's a Blu-ray. We would think it would show something, but it didn't. So I thought I would have maybe 45 minutes left. And the other thing is, I hadn't yet seen that scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't seen that scene, and I thought it was closer to the end of the movie. So my thought is, well, I haven't seen that scene yet. It should be closer to the end of the movie. So I thought I had 45 minutes tops left. And I had over an hour left.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're lucky I made it here on time, to be honest. So, but diving into now, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, good.
It was long.
Okay.
It was slow to me.
Okay.
And I felt like this movie could have been 45 minutes shorter, to be honest. I felt like there was a lot of build-up, and there was a lot of ending.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like the ending of this movie was a half hour longer than it should have been. It should have ended a half hour before it did.
So, I mean, we're pretty much all about spoilers because we assume everyone listening has seen this before. So,
yes.
How would you have ended it? Where would you have cut it? Meaning, don't change anything.
Right.
Just stop the movie.
Well, I think I would have changed a little bit.
Okay.
I would have, I felt like this whole love affair wasn't necessary. And that might be controversial because I know this is like... The cover of it is the two of them in bed.
Which blows my mind now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't think twice about it then. But that's a really important point because the cover art I watched it on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like basically they had, the cover truly looks like they have just made love.
They were in love.
Like
in love, in bed.
Nick Nolte is like leaning his head back like he just, like there's a post-coital moment. And I was like, that's kind of a big spoiler because it doesn't happen till the last 20 minutes, I would argue, right? Right? Yeah. So that's a spoiler right on the poster or the art. And then the thing about you're saying, it might be controversial. I don't think it is because from what I understand, what I in my research, the book doesn't focus on their love affair. It happens, but it's like a minor, it's like a sub plot. That's what my understanding. The book is mostly him flashbacking.
Right. And I think that's where it should be. I think the relationship they should have focused on was really his relationship, maybe even with his sister, because his sister's never in it. Maybe not the big focus, but really focused on him and remembering. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the whole idea of her having summoned him to New York, mm-hmm. is to help her to understand Savannah's past. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where it should have focused. I really feel like Barbra Streisand wanted this to be her romantic movie. Like all of a sudden she wants to be the star.
Yeah.
So I just didn't enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that they were both cheating on their spouses. I mean, they're mm-hmm. both married, even though they're in unhappy marriages, and even though
both are cheating.
Both are
not even really. I mean, it's kind of sloppy cheating. Like the husband, Barbra Streisand's husband in this movie, played by like Count Dracula, or like more like Count Chocula, because he's such like a lightweight. But like he is having a very like sort of open affair with his pianist,
yes.
and then Nick Nolte's wife, Blythe Danner, I forgot she was even in this movie. That is so weird to me, where she's just like, Mark Cleveland wants to marry me. And it's like, what? What are you talking? It's like, sweetie, you're already married. And this isn't
the phone. And this is like a conversation over the phone.
It's like you're talking to your husband about someone wanting to marry you. Do you have a mouth? Do you have a voice? Like, do you have an opinion about this?
It's
like,
very strange.
She spins it all on him. And it's like, make your own decisions, girl.
Well, and then he turns it around and says, well, what do you want
to do? Which is the appropriate response, in my opinion. To me, their relationships with their spouses were so like light and breakable to me that I didn't, and I usually hate adultery stories. Mm-hmm. In fact, they even make a joke. Nick Nolte makes a joke like, I think I like adultery. And she's like, that's why it's a sin. And it's like, but I think neither of their marriages, there was no sense of like love or respect, really.
None.
And it was all about like I think the wife was, I don't know. I don't even dive too into those because they're so light. But so the adultery
they're afterthoughts. Like they're not even like. I don't even. I 100% agree, and that's why I didn't feel like the affair was necessary.
Yeah,
I truly would have felt it to be a better movie if they didn't. Almost like in Lost in Translation. Mm-hmm. Where they're playing around with that idea the whole time, and they didn't. And it was a satisfying ending because they didn't do it. If Susan Lowenstein and Tom had toyed around with it, but then after growing so much, right? So this is like a growing movie. Yeah. They both find out things about themselves, blah, blah, blah. What about after they find all the stuff out about themselves, they have, such this self-confidence in themselves that they don't need to jump into bed with each other. It didn't make sense to me that now they're going to jump into bed.
I agree with you. I actually think they have good chemistry. I actually didn't... I wouldn't necessarily that I liked them. I actually think I did like them. I liked their little romance. I did.
Okay.
Meaning, as cinema, I think they're done well. I think that some of the conversations were like cute and playful, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a it's like a hot little affair. You know what I mean? Like that is probably the way these characters would talk to each other. I think the script was right, but I think my issue was, and it ties a bit with what you're saying. It's like. I mean, I don't want this to be like a 3-hour episode. However, like Barbra Streisand as a therapist, Lowenstein's one of the worst therapists I've ever seen. She breaking it down, like she's yelling at him because he starts yelling. To your point, I think it would have been stronger if she never yelled. Like if she was like maybe pulled back a little more, used a little more sparingly in this movie.
Sure.
And she was just this like rock solid center. And then maybe you find out little layers about her later on. And sure, no one's life is perfect. But when she says to him, I think you're the first real friend I've had in a long time. Mm-hmm. So naturally you have an affair. Like, it's like, to your point, keep it a friendship. Keep it a mutual, because that's what's missing, right? Actually, to your point again. This is missing from their marriages is respect. Like, they're not respecting each other's emotions on one. The other one isn't respecting each other's time on the other. So it's like, it's like, but they had this mutual respect and friendship that they trusted each other. And what do? They end up having an affair. It is a weird choice. It didn't make
any sense. Yeah. I agree. I liked the chemistry between the two of them, but I liked it as friends.
Yeah.
I did not like it as lovers.
Okay, well, the thing is, I think the love scenes and all that, those scenes would have worked fine in another movie. You know what I mean?
And I have one of my notes is, it seems like a different movie.
Yeah.
It really felt like two separate movies.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really get why they had to be together.
I would argue that after you find out, and this is the scene we're talking about, is like basically the family is raped by these prisoner escapees, and it's a terrible scene.
It's really horrible.
Yeah.
And
there's children involved.
There's children involved.
So all of that, and this gun, blood, and stabbings, and the whole thing. I mean, so once that reveal happens, And she's like, go ahead, cry. By the way, I have my, my subtitles on, as I always do.
Gosh.
Were you able to hear what she's saying? Because it's very quiet.
No, what did she say? Oh, I might have, but tell me what she said.
I wrote them down. She's stroking his back like a cat. Cry. Cry.
Oh, no.
Feel the pain.
I heard the feel
Cry.
of pain.
Cry. Let it go. It's the only way to heal.
Sounds like a Frozen song.
Cry. Cry. Cry, cry. That sounds like a Faith Hill song.
Cry.
But meaning, he is so fragile. He has had this big awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe don't, like, start a love affair with him or a sexual relationship
inappropriate.
with him. It's very inappropriate.
Now, I guess in her defense, she isn't his doctor, technically.
That's right. That's right.
So there's that. But yes, he just made this big breakthrough.
Yeah.
Let him
Figure it
heal.
out. I know.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And he got over that pretty damn quick.
I agree.
He had a nice big cry, and that rid him of 40 some odd years of pain.
So he's 40.
Okay. So 30 some odd pain. Yeah.
You know what I mean, though.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, you're right. I think, though, that she would say, now that we've had this awakening, let's schedule a couple of appointments and really just talk it out. Not, let's have dinner tonight.
Yeah.
What?
Now that you show me you can cry, I'm super turned on.
Oh my god! Oh, it's just a weird choice.
So yes, it is a weird choice. I did enjoy their playful moments as friends. I enjoyed the friendship, but I did not enjoy the relationship. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. That's the problem with some of these revisits. I'm watching this movie and I'm like rewriting it in my head as I'm watching it. I don't know if you do that same thing, but I just envision it differently, and I think this would have been so much better if they continued to be friends and they brought out the best in each other, and they could in turn bring these new and improved people back to their relationships, or in Barbara's case,
leave the strength to leave that marriage. Yeah,
it just would have made a much more satisfying conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think to me it was more like a I don't when I do these rewatches, I think I've said this before, I actually want to like it because it's like a time investment. I'm looking to like it, but I'll put down notes that I'm like, that could have been better, or that surprised me. But my thing is dialogue. Like, one thing, like, in this movie, his narration, I'm really sorry to say this, it sounds like he's a poet. But when he talks, it sounds like he fell off the turnip truck.
I have that as a note as well. I don't understand
the narration.
What he's saying. It does not match up with him. I have a note at the beginning.
Oh, I have a note at the beginning. Go ahead.
Maybe it's going to be the same note. It'll be funny. All of this was a long time before I chose not to have a memory. And then he shows up and he's just like this kind of dumb.
I thought it was a narrator. I thought it was a separated narrator, and then I realized he said I. It's like it is Nick Nolte. Like
I forgot about the narration. To be honest,
me too. Yeah. And because truly, upon rewatch, you're like, wait a minute, the person narrating this is much smarter than the Nick Nolte character.
And what is the narration about? Is this a story he's telling after the fact?
He's not even a writer. He's not a writer. Sense. He's a football coach and a teacher. Right? He doesn't say he's a writer.
What would have been more interesting is if his sister was narrating it.
Amazing.
I just thought of that right now. She's the sister. I mean, she's the writer.
Yeah.
She's written books. She's the poet.
Ooh,
it would make so much more. At the end, you find out that this is a story, because she said she's writing a new book, The Prince of Tides. It would all tie together. The only thing she would be able to narrate is his relationship with the therapist that shouldn't have even happened.
You
anyway.
are so smart.
Thank you.
You are so smart. And actually, yeah, and wouldn't it have been cool, like, because they have the ending with the sister, Melinda Dillon, not one of my favorite actresses.
No, but finally she's in a different role.
For sure.
I was happy to see that she was in a different role, because when I saw her in the credits, I'm like, ooh, is she his wife? Because that's going to be annoying.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, too.
But she was not.
Well, Blythe Danner and Melinda Dillon were both in Tu Wong Fu. Watch your head, Christina. Christina was just
I had to bend down
her
to pick
pen.
up
Yeah. So, but here's my note
I forgot that they were both nice.
So at the end, So at the end with the sister, when he opens when she's like, "Oh, I wrote a new book called The Prince of Tides. I dedicated it to whatever," and he's like, "Oh, Luke will like that." Which, I mean, come on, you know what she meant.
So ridiculous.
So then, but imagine instead if they cut to him closing the book after narrating certain sections, and he's like, "This is great," and hands her the book back. Like, because that would have made more sense. He isn't smart enough to say these. I'm sorry, he's not smart enough to say these things.
He really
So
isn't.
here's my little quote.
Oh gosh,
I'm going to try it with an accent because this is why I had to put on the subtitles. I grew up slowly along the tides and marshes of the KICI. And I was like, what's a KICI? I swear to God. He's like, the marshes of the KICI. And I'm like, what's a KICI?
Oh my.
Do you know what he said? Do you remember
No.
this? This is the first line. So I put the subtitles on. It says Carolina Sea Island. But he pronounces it the KICI. I'm like, the Carolina Sea Island, right? Later on...
Ian, I'm sorry for interrupting, but his accent is not that thick throughout the entire movie.
I don't know why no one caught this. His narration accent is like, I'm telling you, it's very dense.
Different.
And his accent, listen, I will criticize accents in movies because you're an actor.
Yes.
That's your job. Like, if you want to give your character an accent, be consistent, work with an expert, get the accent right, and then maintain it. You can't just dial it up for comedy, which this movie does, and then suddenly it goes away during the more romantic moments, which it does. And it just, to me, it's like, just keep it or don't do it.
Right. You need to be consistent.
Hey, Tom, what happened to your accent? Oh, I really tried to get out of my southern accent. Oh, good for you.
Right. It's like all of a sudden we're talking, and all of a sudden I have an accent because I want to be funny. Does not happen in real life.
Another great quote towards the beginning, Kate Nelligan, who is so good in this. I remember her being in this more. That's just my take.
I remember her being in it more too.
Yeah. They're fighting, good fight in the beginning.
Yes.
She's so cold, but it feels real. And she says, and then he's yelling at her, and she has some really good lines in this. Mm-hmm. I didn't write them down, but I wrote his down because it was really cheesy. Talking to you is like chewing on tin foil. But I do think, I have it right here. I wrote the narrations are heavy and poetic. Tom is a jokester.
Yes.
Why? So Kate and Nick, their fighting scenes, and there's a few of them in this. Each one is really good, and I think it's mostly because of her.
Yes.
Because this character, she has a very fully realized character. She's been through a lot, and the accent's consistent. And you feel like, even though her life is very different, you feel like you're watching the same character.
Yes, for sure. Because when you're flashbacking to when she was with Tom's father in this abusive relationship, you see that she's not a victim. She is a victim because she is being beaten, but she's also very strong, and you see that about her. She has a sense of humor. She feeds him dog food. She has her own way of getting back at him, and you see that she's a survivor, and that really moves forward with her. She ends up finding a rich husband, and she's still strong, but it does seem like the same character, just in a different relationship.
Well, trying to be something different too, because she's like, I am not this woman.
Yes.
She's like, I know there's an extraordinary woman inside of me, or something like that, and she just has the wrong surroundings. Is her point. Another good one. Tom meets Susan Lowenstein. And he's walking by her the first time, and I believe he says, of course. So he says, her questions made me feel as guilty as her perfume. God.
You have nothing to be guilty of. Sorry.
Good, Christina. I did laugh out loud when he throws the football to her and she says, "My nails."
I did too. I wrote that. I love that.
I wondered if that was real. I wondered.
Agree. I felt it was
improv.
Yes, 100%.
Because her laugh was a great laugh, and her screaming "my nails" seemed very Barbra.
Very Barbra. It was, yes, I really enjoyed that as well.
And they do have playful chemistry. I liked it. And to our earlier point, doesn't mean they need to have an affair over it,
right.
But because they have a good, solid friendship.
Yeah, it would have been better for them not to. I think I made that point several times.
Yeah, I wrote too that the fighting, even their fighting, Lowenstein and Tom, I said their fighting is also good, but it just doesn't do much for Lowenstein's credibility. I don't know this for sure. I don't think therapists, certainly professional Manhattan psychologists, scream at. And I know it's not her patient.
No, but they're in her office, and it is in that atmosphere. So I don't know about you, but when I'm at work, there's a certain way you portray yourself.
Yeah,
it's your professionalism, and she is super uber professional.
Yeah.
So even though he's not her patient, you do expect her to still act.
Oh, that's my point. Yeah, that's my point.
Exactly. Yes, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, because I feel like, and then she throws the book. And it's like, oh my God.
That was actually kind of funny when it
I wrote a LOL with the book.
And I really liked that she was so embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God. Like, she was like super embarrassed that she lost her cool. But I think that it would have been more effective if it wasn't in her office. Like, I think that fight would have been better outside of her office, in his apartment or her apartment or somewhere else.
Because what she was saying, and this is about the script stuff, what she was saying to him was right. Mm-hmm. She was saying the right things, but she was screaming them. Mm-hmm. It's like, it just would have done so much more for her character, and I think even like her likability, I think, if she had played it like stone cold. Mm-hmm. And I think it could have added an interesting dynamic, because the mother was giving him nothing, and Lowenstein's giving him nothing. Mm-hmm. Like in the office, to your point. And then, outside they're having chili or whatever, a gross chili in the park, or have it at a restaurant. I like the scene where, did I say this, where we're talking about the dreams, the winter, the blinding snow.
You did, but I have that same note.
I like that dialogue.
This is bizarre, because you and I both said at the beginning of this that we have basically two pages of notes. Everything you're saying
is what you have down.
Is stuff that I have written down. The dream interpretation was great.
Yeah.
I loved
that. It was really cute. It was cute and funny, and it was flirty, but didn't feel movie-ish. It sounded like a conversation, like, maybe you're snowing me.
Maybe, maybe I have cold feet. Maybe you just miss winter.
Yeah, I loved it.
I really loved it, too.
Good dialogue.
Loved it, too. Do we want to talk about George Carlin, who I forgot was in it?
Completely forgot he was in it. And good.
He was good.
I mean, played up the little gay affectations in his voice, but this is 91. I'll take it.
I was wondering how you would feel about it.
Any kind of representation,
yes.
I think is, at that point, and I think Barbra, has so many gay fans. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that George Carlin character is in the book. I don't know what role he serves in the book. But I think, hey, he's a successful, or moderately successful person who has these fun parties, and he's social. He's not plagued with, guilt or AIDS or something. He's just gay and having a good time.
Yeah, and he's not even a gossip or...
No.
Do you know what I mean? He's just kind of a neighbor who's in the know, and you believe that he could be friends with her.
1,000%.
Right? Like that they could run in the same circles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I liked that. I liked him, and I was surprised that he was in it. I forgot that he had been in it, and I thought he acted well. Mm-hmm. For someone that's not necessarily an actor.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. It didn't bother me, the little, gay stuff, the little gay voices or whatever, or tones to his voice. Speaking of voices, though, and accents and tones, once again, very much like Frankie and Johnny, we talked about the scene of it in traffic, where there's that woman's like, I gotta get to my doctor's appointment. It's like, no, you don't, girl. No. I just don't. Listen, I said it before, I'll say it again. I lived in New York for 14 years. I lived in Brooklyn for 14 years. I have never met someone who has a voice like a New Yorker in a movie.
Well, I think that I think they do terrible. Whoever's training, whoever that voice coach is in Hollywood who's trying to train these actors to talk like a New Yorker, is not great at it. And they do the same thing for Boston.
Oh, God. Everyone sounds like a Kennedy.
Every single actor sounds like a Kennedy. It's terrible.
But I will say, in defense of this, of my very own argument, I'm defending the other side and saying, this is 91. I didn't move to New York till like 2002. So, like, this maybe, I'm sure it was a different time. There were more, like, full-fledged New Yorkers. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm sure these people exist. But, it's just, it's a little
New Yorker. She has that New York accent. So maybe she was directing them to talk more like her.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were just doing that on their own.
Yeah. I don't want them to talk like Shakespeare, certainly, but I think it could be dialed down a little bit.
Just a little bit. Doesn't have to be so exaggerated.
We don't need subtitles,
Right. I know, the accent thing was
so much. Christina, my next note, and we have to talk about it, is the scene.
Okay, yes, let's talk about the scene.
All right, I will set it up just in case people haven't seen this movie in a while, or people don't know what we're talking about. It's a flashback. It's a moment of happiness, of course. Was it a
birthday party? It was a... No, I guess it wasn't the birthday.
They were dancing.
They were just dancing.
The dad wasn't around. Right, the dad wasn't around, and it was... I said Cora. Oh my God! It was Lila, the mom, and two of the children. Tom, played by Nick Nolte, but as a child, and then Savannah, the sister. The older son, Luke, is not home.
Right, and I was happy to see that they were older in this flashback.
Oh my God, Christina, that is so funny. That was my same thought too. I remember them being younger. I was
really nervous because every flashback he has is they're little. I mean. Yeah. How old? Like 8 or something?
I thought when she said how old is Savannah, he said 13. I thought he was going to say 7, but he said 13. I was like, oh, they are old, a little older.
A little. I mean, still tragic, and awful.
Tragic. Yeah. So go on, then. Suddenly there is a bang at the door, 3 bangs, and
it was a knock at the door.
Was it a knock?
I have that as a note. Like they knocked. It was like a dun dun dun. Like yeah.
Oh, I thought it was louder.
But he just went to open the door.
Which the mother says. Who could that be? They open the door, and like with a bolt of lightning in the background, it's like 3 escaped prisoners from Callanwald prison, we find out. And they could not be more disgusting and gross looking. Oh. They tried. And they're soaking wet because it's raining, they're muddy, they're gross, and they walk in, and through edited flashbacks, they proceed to truly rape the family. So, like, there's 3 of them, there's 3 of them. And the mother is dragged into the kitchen screaming, and she's assaulted. The daughter, Savannah, is shown with her feet behind the sofa and the other feet on top of her on the floor. And then it sort of ends, and they cut back to the modern day therapy session. And Barbra Streisand, and he's like, yeah, he's like, but, he's like, whatever. He's kind of trying to put a button on it and make a joke.
Sure,
like, but we got through it. And she's like, well, Tom, you said there were 3 prisoners. What was the third one doing? Oh, well, first
she asked,
said,
what were you doing?
And he was frozen. And he's like, nothing. And she's like, well, what did you...
Did you go to get help?
Or what did you do? He's like, no, I didn't think to. And she said, that's a little boy answer. Is that the same?
Yes, what did he say that was the little boy answer?
He said, because. Because.
Yeah.
Because. And she's like, that's a little boy answer. And then there's a long pause, and she said, Tom, you said there were 3. What was the third one doing? And then you see that Tom was raped as well. There are glass bottles on a table. Him and the prisoner smash against the table. That's the most upsetting shot for me, is when he takes the knife and starts to cut his underwear, the back of his underwear, and you see a little boy's underwear, but Christina, and then the kid's screaming for help, and it's very full on, like you see the kid's face full in the camera, screaming in pain, and then he sees his brother through the window, Luke. Yes. Luke walks in, Luke saves the day, shoots and kills 2 of them, blood everywhere. And then he's loading up the gun again because he's out of bullets. And the other guy who's raping the mother realizes this. And you think, oh my God, they're going to kill Luke because the guy has a gun.
Right.
And the guy holds up his gun. And just as he's about to shoot, something happens. And you realize that the mom, Lila, has stabbed be a prisoner, and he falls down. There's blood.
What a scene.
Everywhere.
What a scene.
And yet, my memory of that scene was much worse. What was your... it's bad, but I remember it being worse in my mind. My
memory of that scene was also worse. It lasted a lot longer in my memory. I felt like the scene was 15 minutes long in my memory.
Same.
But in reality, it was probably, 30 seconds?
I didn't remember the cutaways. I didn't remember the cutaways, like back to the office. I thought it was one long... Honestly, I thought it was like the accused. I thought it was like the accused. Yeah. I really did. I thought it was like that.
I remembered the cutaway only because I remembered that whole realization that he was... with her questioning, where were you? Where were you? Okay. And I remember being surprised. Do you remember being surprised, or did you think
he was assaulted too?
Yeah.
I was... I'm getting goosebumps right now. It shook me, like... it stayed with me forever. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Especially since, if I may, because this is a work of fiction. This is not based, to my knowledge, this is a book of fiction, based on it. I don't think this, I don't know, God, I don't want to be wrong about this. I don't know if this is based on any experiences the author had.
I don't know
or this is just invented. I don't know. But I was like, at that point in my life, watching this movie, I'm like, oh, this is based on a book of fiction. This didn't really happen. But what an interesting, dark choice to do this to a family and a boy, too. I mean, because I'd never seen something like that before.
Yes.
I was really shocked.
I was very shocked, too. Yes, I was 100% shocked. Yeah, I mean, it stayed with me my whole life.
Same.
It stayed with me my whole
When we talked about revisiting this, my first thought was, I don't know if I can watch that scene again.
Right, we were talking about that. And I texted you the other day, and I'm like, I'm trying to gear myself up to watch this movie. And I even told Matt, because Matt had never seen it, I'm like, well, there's this awful scene. I don't know. It was, it really stayed with me my whole life.
You mentioned Emily earlier, walking in, what if she walked in by accident or something?
Right.
I felt the way about Carl. I was like, oh God, I don't want Carl to walk in and watch this awful scene.
Yeah, anybody. You don't want anybody.
No.
Even Matt, this morning is when I saw it, and he was sleeping at first, and he came out, and of course, when it was over, and he kind of walking slowly into the kitchen. I'm like, the scene's gone. It's okay. It's all done. And the rest of the movie's fine. I mean, it's just that, 1 minute of scene.
It happens, and there's still, I think, 40 minutes left of the movie after it happens.
There's so much more left.
I know, and I remembered it, like you're saying, I remembered it being the end of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when, this is when the romance starts, which is so odd.
It's a strange time.
So odd.
I will say, to Barbra Streisand's credit, I mean, she didn't really hold back. I mean, it could have been much more gratuitous, but I think she did it where it's a nightmare enough.
Yes.
Where I don't think anyone could accuse her of being of dodging the brutality of that.
Right, absolutely. 100%. So, all right, do you want to take a quick break? I feel like we need a break. I need a drink.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay, we'll be right back. Hey there, it's Brian and Christina. We just wanted to take this break to thank you for listening to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there.
And if you have any questions, comments, or observations, shoot us an email at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. Thanks for listening, and now, back to the show. And we're back talking about The Prince of Tides, the multi-Oscar-nominated film.
Yes.
Christina, any more? And there are some more notes for sure.
I looked at a couple notes. There was one thing he said that was kind of funny. I just wrote down when he's playing with his kids at the house, and he said, "Oh, anyone want to sit on Daddy's lap?" And they're all like, "No." And he goes, "There's money involved." Yep. And they all jump on him. I'm like, yikes.
Let's see. I already talked about that. Yeah, the Barbra Streisand's husband in this is like truly like a Bond villain. And at one point, so he shows up, of course, just when Tom and the football player are like becoming buddies, like becoming a father and son type thing. They're rolling around on the ground with the football, and at one point he truly says. So he's talking about so the son runs away or skips away or something, and then Tom and the husband are having a sort of a testy conversation. They're not yelling, but there's
a little layer there.
There's a layer. There's some subtext there, and at one point he says something along the lines of like, "Well, he wants to be a violinist, but it's this whatever," and he's like, and Tom kind of gives the kid a compliment. And he's like, well, no, I think they should be worried. Meaning the football players, I guess, should be worried.
Sure.
And then the Bond villain says, it is he who should be worried, Mr. Wingo. It's like, oh my God, calm down.
Yeah, he's
like a joke. He's like jokey. I mean, he's not jokey. He is a joke. He's a joke. He's a joke. He's like, also belongs in another movie.
Definitely belongs in another movie.
Imagine how a therapist could stay in a situation like that where this person is like an ego maniac.
So imagine this. Imagine they were already divorced. It would have been perfect. It would have been the same relationship that they had.
Yeah.
And she turned to Tom.
Yeah.
Because he stood up for her. But more because she is growing and has this friendship with Tom, and she can stand up for herself finally, and she can break the Ice Queen persona.
Yeah.
Like, it would make more sense. Also, there was no reason for her to be married.
I mean, honestly, it felt like they were divorced anyway.
It should, yeah.
And how about the way that Tom and Susan were standing next to each other during the violin solo?
They were like practically embraced.
First of all, everyone else is wearing, I think I'm right about this, I could be wrong. Everyone else is like, sort of like in like dimly lit parts of the living room watching this. And then you see like Tom and Susan leaning against the wall. Tom is like behind her. And he might as well have his hands on her hip.
Yes.
Like, and then they're definitely cast in a different light, under a light. And it just feels like that's inappropriate. I don't care how much you're fighting with your husband. You don't let someone stand that close to you.
You would never.
Like, nope.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. So. Especially where your husband doesn't like it in the first place. Like, he already hates Tom.
Right.
Yeah. So why would you do that? I don't know. It's just such a weird choice.
Very weird choice. Very weird choice. The son, Nard, her son in real life.
That is correct.
Jason Gould.
That is correct.
With Elliot Gould.
Yes.
Another actor. He annoyed me.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about this.
Okay.
I liked him. Not him. Let me backtrack a little bit. I liked the little side storyline as a little bit of a break from everything else. It was a little lighter. It was like something else for him to do. And I liked just seeing him as more of like a normal guy, I guess. I really did not enjoy the son.
So you were talking about cutting parts earlier. Couldn't we have cut the whole son out?
We could have cut the whole
There's other ways to show Tom's, like, normalcy. Or Tom's, like, passion. Like, for her to say, you're a great coach. It's like, you could just take him at his word. Like, you didn't have to coach your son for $150 an hour.
Right.
I mean, like,
I think it was Barbara's way of casting her son in a movie.
So here's what I found out.
Was he in the book?
Here's what I found out. So Chris O'Donnell was cast.
Interesting.
For this, okay? And Pat Conroy, who wrote the book and adapted the screenplay, felt that he was wrong for the role.
I could see that.
Chris O'Donnell. So Barbra Streisand gave him a series of headshots or tapes to look at. And allegedly, Pat Conroy said, this kid. And she's like, that's my son. You know, whatever. And
that seems...
What a charming coincidence.
A wonderful coincidence.
Yes.
He was, I just thought he was obnoxious. I felt like he overacted in a lot of parts. I understood he was trying to be obnoxious, like he was supposed to be obnoxious.
Although I did like that he wasn't nice to his mother. Mm-hmm. Because she does seem to have it all together, to a degree,
right?
And the fact that she walks in so almost like excited to see her son, and he's just like, ugh, why are you talking? Yeah, like to Tom.
But didn't you find it was a little bit odd that she didn't predict he would be like that? She knows her son.
Yeah.
If Emily was like that. If it was a similar situation, and I knew she would be rude to my friend that I brought home, I wouldn't be like, "Ooh, I want you to meet my daughter." Like, I just wouldn't.
Well, I think she was really hoping because he was a football coach, and her son was interested in playing football.
I would have presented it a different way then. Okay. I wouldn't have been like showing up in the middle of the night with another man after being at a party to introduce to my rebellious teenage son who's angry at me anyway.
It was an interesting choice.
It was an interesting choice. But yes, I agree. We could have just X'd that whole thing out.
Yeah.
And then the ex-husband would have had a smaller role.
Yep.
But it would have been a big enough... You only needed one scene with the ex-husband. Do you see how I'm calling him ex? Because that's what he should be.
Yeah, it feels that way.
We only need one scene with the ex-husband to show Susan Lowenstein's growth.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think, and this is a stretch, but I feel something in my heart that this whole character, this whole extended sequences with the ex-husband, with the husband, is because she wanted that soapy moment at the table where she's like, the pianist says, I can't believe you would risk his hands letting him play football.
Yes.
She's like, and I can't believe you're sitting here when everyone knows you're fucking my husband. Or eating my food or whatever, and everyone knows you're fucking my husband. It's like, but I feel like Barbara wanted like a movie moment.
That's her moment. Yeah, that was her moment
the
that
soap
she wanted.
Opera,
Sure.
Bitch.
She could have still written something with an ex-husband and the new wife or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, she could have, why not take it out on the husband? You're taking it out on the mistress?
Right.
I mean, take it out on the husband.
I mean, yeah, she was kind of a jerk.
You promised you wouldn't do this. It's like, he's an asshole.
When did he promise this? When have you spoken to him?
How about this? He also promised not to ever cheat on you.
Right.
But he has been.
Right.
And it's like, why would you trust him now?
So in all of this, the dinner party, the conversations with the husband, all of this, all happens after that pivotal scene. This is all part of that 45 minutes shouldn't even have happened.
Yeah.
Such a long ending. Like, it was
Jesus.
never
And talk
ending.
about the ending. What are the last two words of this movie?
Lowenstein.
And?
Lowenstein.
You got it.
Lowenstein.
Was it 3?
I think it was 3.
Oh, that's right. Is it the same 3 words? Did he say the same 3 words? Keep Lowenstein. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was like
weird because
it
shifts. It shifts. I'm like, wait a second. Like, she really just. She did her job, and you fell in love with her. She fell in love with you, and and you broke each other's hearts. Okay, sure. Like, it just seems like the movie's point of view is like, oh no, Lowenstein is a goddess, and it's little Barbara. Barbara. That's Barbara for you.
There's Barbara. I think it should have ended also at not the movie itself, but their relationship should have ended at the sidewalk. There was no reason why they had dinner after. Like, they had already broken up on the sidewalk.
Yeah. And
then they had dinner after?
That's why I thought he was on the sidewalk. I thought he was leaving right then and there.
They should. He should have.
Leave? And again, it's a movie moment. It's a little bit of like The Way We Were. Like, she crosses the street. Although, the first time I saw this movie, I thought she was going to get hit by a car.
Can I just tell you something? So at this point, I was so done with watching this movie anyway. I'm watching her walk across the street, and I was like, oh my God, it would be hilarious if she just got hit by a car.
It's kind of shot that way.
It's very weirdly shot. You feel like, maybe because we're in the middle of New York and it was super busy traffic, and now she's just kind of slowly walking across a busy street.
It's weird.
It's a weird angle.
What's also weird is like this therapist, this psychologist, she crosses the street and she's hugging him. They pan back. All of her confidential patient files are flying all over the sidewalk.
God,
did you
I didn't even notice that.
You didn't notice it?
Didn't even notice that.
And I'm like, oh my God, imagine if like you're walking by and you're like, oh, hi, Dr. Lowenstein, and you pick up like your fucking folder 2 blocks down, and you're like, oh, awesome. Like all your information's on there.
Oh my gosh.
My
so
God.
funny.
But I completely agree. I would have ended that relationship on the sidewalk, and it felt very much like the end.
Yeah, it ended, and you know, it was a nice ending moment. That's it. We did not need to see them
because then you're
again.
longing. Then you're longing for something more, but instead the movie just keeps giving you more. It's like, wait, I thought this was over.
Well, and I thought it was kind of unrealistic that he would consider moving to New York to be with her. At one point, he's actually considering that.
Yeah.
After knowing her for who knows, we don't know what the time frame is.
6 weeks.
Was it 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you knew that because I didn't. But he's considering at some point, thinking he's going to leave his children in the South.
I have to be honest, I actually wish that was said as the reason, because I was like, wait a minute, Blythe, the relationship is, every relationship is 2 parts. Like,
right.
Just because you, Tom, have this big awakening doesn't mean your wife is just going to be like, oh, okay, you're ready now? Okay, baby.
Well,
like,
didn't he have a phone call with her, though? I thought he had just finished a phone call with her.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, did we hear her side of it?
No.
So maybe she was saying, I want to give it another try.
That's
that's kind of what I expected.
I kind of wish there was a little bit like, listen, Lowenstein, this kid's... And he does say in the dinner... Oh, that was a weird moment, too, because I think she says, you don't love me as much as you love her, or something like that. And he says, no, I love you more. I just have loved her longer. And then she smiles. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
Just say, listen, there's some unresolved shit we have to deal with. And if it doesn't work out, it's because we can't make it work out. Not because because of my fault. Yeah. That's right. What I mean. Have a grown-up conversation. They have been kind of grown-ups for most of this movie
until the end. Until the affair.
Until it becomes like a movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else? Do you have anything else?
Well, the music. Really quick, just the music note.
It's
very swelly.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about sometimes we really don't talk too much about musical scores on this podcast, but I want to play a little snippet, and this is from the beginning, where the imagery is marshland. Do you not expect to see dinosaurs walking around?
100%.
It's like a lot of swelling for swamps.
Yes.
Like it's marsh. It's just marsh. It's like marsh and the sun beaming off the marsh.
Is it the swelling of emotions?
But there aren't any emotions because you find out that he's pushing everything down.
It's very Jurassic
It's during which I will say, Jurassic Park is 2 years later than this movie. But this is James, I think it's James Newton Howard, who would go on to do My Best Friend's Wedding, which we love the music and the score of that movie. Yeah. This just seems a little bit dramatic.
It was very dramatic throughout the whole movie.
Every little scene, there was like swells.
There was like this huge dramatic...
They've kissed like 25 times. They kiss and it's like, Warner, and it's like...
It was like the first time ever kissing anyone. Yes, very, very dramatic.
Trivia... Budget $30 million. Mm-hmm. It made $135 million. This was a big box office hit. It did end up in the top 20, of that year box office. Barbra Streisand originally wanted Jeff Bridges and Lloyd Bridges to be father and son. The Nick Nolte.
That would have been pretty good. Yeah, I like Jeff.
Beau Bridges was like not interested, which I can understand.
Then, yes, I could understand that too, but.
Why not Jeff?
Not Jeff?
She decided not to on Jeff later, but then put Jeff in The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Yes, he would have been good in this role, though.
I agree.
He plays a good tortured soul.
I think Jeff Bridges is one of the best actors. He's one of my favorite actors. Like him, just even in Jagged Edge. You saw Jagged Edge, right?
Yes.
Oh my god, I think it's a great performance.
Yeah.
Let's see. I already talked about Chris O'Donnell.
Do you have anything about Don Johnson in those notes?
Oh no, so I found that. Yeah,
Did you
it's
find
like that he was the one that was like, yeah, you should someone should make a movie out of this.
Yes.
And then she was like, I will. And then I'll put you in it. And then by the time it was all done, they broke up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Robert Redford was interested in this and was going to cast Barbra Streisand, but then it just took too long. Things take too long. Let's see. Oh, okay. And that's actually that's a bit rushed, but that was all my notes.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much all I have too. Did you feel like? Well, how did you feel about it this time around? Did you like it better?
I actually liked it a lot more. I'm going to be honest. I liked it a lot.
I actually liked it a lot more too. Mm-hmm. I think because I had forgotten so much about it.
Yeah.
Again, I would have cut off the last 45 minutes. That's when it really went downhill for me. But I did like I know you didn't really love the flashbacks. Mm-hmm. I did like the flashbacks, and I liked how the more he talked with her, it felt like it was real, and that, you start talking about the past, more memories come back, and you start thinking about other things, and things trigger it, like the birthday party triggered the birthday party.
Yeah.
And I felt
that's interesting.
I liked how that sort of felt real. Mm-hmm. And I also liked knowing what happened prior to. There were a lot of clues about it working up to that, which went way over my head. Mm-hmm. They talked about the story that she wrote with the 3 stray dogs.
Yeah.
And that I obviously did not even think about.
No, because we didn't know
about
it
at that
point.
It,
yeah.
And even the name of the prisoners, prison and all that.
Yeah.
I appreciated that part of it.
Yeah.
I felt like if I had given it a second chance way back then, I would have liked it more. But I just never wanted to watch it again because of that.
It's a really good point, and I think it actually is better on the rewatch because of that. Because suddenly it's like you're trying to put these pieces together in the middle of this love story, but you're trying to put these pieces together, and then on rewatch you're like, oh god, oh yeah, and like the Renata Halpern, I completely forgot about that subplot. How she had that
that she had a different name,
and she compared her family to the Holocaust, and like I forgot all about that stuff.
Yes. And I have to say, like we talked about that scene, but we didn't talk about how after it was over, they weren't allowed to talk about it. They never had to, they could never mention it again. They didn't report it to the police. They buried them in the backyard. Yeah. They cleaned it all up, and it was like it never happened. Yeah. That, to me, was really crazy.
Yeah. It felt real.
Yeah.
Because you saw...
Especially with her.
With Lila.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this does not fit her fantasy, right? This does not fit her adventure, her profile at all. And you also know that the father probably would have blamed the entire family for
100%.
Everything that happened.
100%.
Yeah. And I think it would have gotten much, much worse because he would see them all as weak or take it out on Lila for not protecting the kids enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been a lose-lose. And something about that felt very real. Like, just don't talk about it. It didn't happen. And she kept saying, this is the thing you find out. She kept saying it over and over. This didn't happen. And I think if you're a kid, even at 13 or whatever, I think you're like, Mom is very serious about this. It didn't happen, and this is just what you do. And I also think living in a marsh, away from people, and it's not a happening town, that I think is probably easier to do, to keep it to yourself, because who else are you going to tell?
Well, and it's also very much, I think it was the 50s, I'm guessing, when they were little.
I think.
Seemed like the 50s.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And it was a very 50s kind of way to be, is you just don't talk about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And the Southern way is what they always talked about, too. You just don't talk about the bad stuff.
That's the name of the book.
Right, the Southern way.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why I said it.
Oh.
Nothing is coincidental, Brian.
My God. Do you have...
I have an FMK.
Don't give me the 3 prisoners.
Oh, I was going to joke with you and say, all right, it's the 3 prisoners. But you just stole my thunder.
We know each other too well.
Yes,
I knew you were going to do that.
That would have been really funny. But no, I do actually have...
fine, if I have to, I would take the...
Stop it right now. Stop it right now.
I'll play that game. I have one for you. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
This is a true match game.
Excellent.
Susan Lowenstein.
Oh, boy.
She is so inappropriate.
How inappropriate is she?
Thank you for asking. When you walk into her office, she doesn't say, have a seat. She says, blank.
Ooh. Interesting.
Fair.
I'm going to write something. You're never going to match.
Oh, no. Well, I have two. To me, it's between two answers. Ding. Oh.
I'm still writing, but it's okay.
I'll repeat the question for the audience at home. Dr. Lowenstein, Susan Lowenstein, she is so inappropriate. She doesn't say, have a seat. She says, blank.
She says, slip into something more comfortable.
Oh my God, that's so good. It is not a match. So I had two. My first one is lie down, which it feels very much like a doctor. Yep. But the other one was going to be unzip.
Oh, very inappropriate. Very inappropriate.
But oh my gosh, I liked it a lot more than I did the first time around. And I think to that whole thing about putting the pieces of the puzzle together, but it is. I agree. It is long. I'm curious. I think it might be the longest movie we've revisited, right? Or was it Forrest? I feel like
there was something else. Oh, maybe it was Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump was 220, I think.
So do you know what my question?
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm sorry.
Wow, you know what you do that. Maybe from now on I go first. And then just completely cut you off. I've done that
to you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So it's an FMK.
Yay!
And it is going to be Tom McNulty.
Yeah.
Susan's husband.
Yep.
And Tom's dad.
Oh my God.
What other men are there?
Well, they're going to give me...
George Carlin. I forgot about his character.
No, the kid. I mean,
I'm going to choose a child.
No, he's not. He's going to college, isn't he?
Who?
Barbra Streisand.
Oh, Bernard, yeah. No, okay. It's still too young.
It's Bernard's dad and Tom's dad. Oh, God.
It's a toughie.
It is tough. Actually, I think I'm changing it. Okay.
All right.
And Pickens are slim.
Pickens are super slim.
Here's what I have.
Okay.
Kill Tom's dad.
Okay.
F Tom. Marry Barbra Streisand's husband.
Interesting. That's what I thought you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I almost thought you would marry Tom, but then I'm like, well, he's a cheater. But so isn't her husband. Yeah. But at least her husband will be away a lot.
That's exactly right. That's
how I thought you would
exactly say. Right. Because you know what, he is like she makes good money too. But there is like this. If you live in New York, it's like not a bad way to live.
Right.
He's traveling all the time. Yes, he is like a Bond villain, but he's never around. Right. And maybe they have an agreement.
Plus, Tom has all these things to work out that he never really worked out.
Tom is not ready for a relationship.
No, he's not.
Nope. And also, I would also worry, he's a little animated, too, and it's like, if he has, I just don't want him realizing things, on the street or in a restaurant.
And he's very childlike, with his stupid jokes and stuff, and I know they used it as, a tool for coping and all that.
I know.
But it was just too over the top.
But he's still going to be cracking jokes. That's not going to stop.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that's it.
That's it. And that is it for us and for this episode of Old Roommates. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there, please.
If you have an idea for the show or a suggestion or comment, you can email us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time.